Hey guys, George from Not Quite Unicorns, a gold tire agency platform, actually a gold tire agency, published a bunch of pretty interesting tips around bubble development, and I quite like a couple of them, and I wanted to just demonstrate that in further detail. So particularly this fourth one. The fourth one says CSS variables should be stored as an option set with style and ID as attributes. And just a couple of questions were asked. TTN asks, what's the use case and why is it better? Why it's better than just have HTML page with all the customer CSS? And the answer to that is, if you're repeating the CSS right in multiple pages, you got to go and repeat it everywhere, and that's the obvious one. But here's something more interesting. In fact, if you want to update the target classes and element IDs, you have to go through every bit and do it there. And if you started off in a different manner that you use the option set right away, then the option set is like the single block of truth to manage it. It's a bit too tough to get around, so let me show it with an example. So here I've got the index page, and here I've got a plus cycle page, and I'm going to have multiple pages of this kind, and basically every page kind of takes the same layout for the demos that I do. Like this is a blur demo, and the other one is just my index page with the styling. And for both these pages, I have sort of a 90-degree grid, which is what you see here. And it stops right in the midway to kind of give a nice effect. And I reuse that practically in every page. So you see this is blur cycle, I've got that grid. And here it's the index page and we've got that grid. And now if I have to make a single change, for example, I want to switch from a light mode to a dark mode, then I need to go to each of these pages to make the change. So now I'm going to show using this best practice of storing the CSS in options, how that can be overcome and how we can gain a lot of flexibility in basically maintaining your bubble app. So let's try that next. All right. So now let's try out this technique in practice. As you can see in the tweet here, he mentions that CSS should be stored in option sets with the style and the ID as attributes. And let me demonstrate that through the option set. So I've created an option set. I kind of use this emoji so that it looks like styling. And I've got created two attributes, the ID and the style. And I've also added an entry here. I'm going to call it the NC body 90-degree grid. And the reason is no code is the no code agency that I run. For my examples, I mostly tend to use this grid, which kind of gives this um, beautiful grid effect on the pages, on all the pages. And this is a common one that I want to maintain. And before I used to have that inserted in every page, and actually I've just recently started using this grid. So it's friendly right now. I kind of duplicate the pages and set up the grid. But let's say if I've got 20, 50 different examples, then it becomes really laborious to be able to make changes to this grid. And that's where this technique from George actually plays a role. So here we've set it up. We've set up the grid. We've given it an ID and we've set up the style. So here for each of the CSS items, CSS elements, which are in the HTML elements, I have chosen the option set. I've inserted the option set and actually directly chosen the grid, which kind of works because I'm going to always use this particular grid as the identifier for the body background. And here I've also set up the ID to use the ID and the style to use the style. So that's happening on the blur cycle page. And the same thing is going to happen on the index page here. So both of them are functioning now of the option set. And as you can see, both of these now have rendered the grid as it was. So that's the easy part. Now the fun part. Let's say I want to make a dark mode version of this. And I'll just pull up my CSS here. And with one click, remember with one click of just going to the option set and pasting the dark mode CSS and saving it here. Again, the page is obviously asking for a refresh. It's asked you to refresh. And there you go. You got a dark mode on both the pages by centralizing that code. And as you can see, this is going out of sync. And here is where the idea actually comes becomes much more useful and relevant. If I were to style each of these elements using the option set, the I could manage the responsiveness and maintain my entire page styling only through the option sets, which kind of is a much more developer experience because you change everything related to a particular item in a single page and everything else functions off that centralized portion. So thank you for this tip. It looks interesting, and I guess I need to figure out a way to make this stuff work for dark and light modes, which I'll kind of explore in the forthcoming tutorials.